Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ELP, were the epitome of progressive rock in the 1970s, known for a mixture of symphonic, jazz and rock influences into a complex and ambitious sound. Over the course of their career, they produced several albums that became staples in the prog genre. But with so many of their albums in their catalogue, which ones are truly worth your time? Here's my ranking of all their studio albums, plus the notable live album, Pictures at an Exhibition. I'll briefly explore each of the albums based on its commercial success and provide insight into what makes it stand out and what might actually make you reach for the skip button. Beginning with the 1994 In the Hot Seat, this was the final studio album from ELP before their second breakup. Receiving quite a lukewarm reception, it was generally considered a departure from the band's classic sound. Now, whilst it's not as essential as their earlier albums, it still has its moments worth exploring, and one of those songs is called In the Hand of Truth, and this offered a bit of the classic ELP sound with complex melodies and a sense of drama that brought back some of the old magic. However, on the song Man in the Street, this really feels disconnected from the band's earlier style and doesn't pack the same punch as their most iconic tracks. A pretty poor performance overall. 1992's album Black Moon. This one marked the return after their long hiatus. And whilst it didn't achieve that same commercial success of the 70s albums, it was quite a solid effort that showcased the band's ability to evolve with the times while still maintaining that core sound that they were known for. It's a good lesson for fans of the band who want to hear them in a more modern context. A really good track, Paper Blood. It's got a darker, atmospheric track that shows the band's ability to adapt without losing their progressive rock roots. It's quite a standout on this album. But on the other hand, Better Days, probably a little bit too commercial and pop-orientated for a band known for their intricate symphonic rock. It doesn't quite capture the spirit of their earlier work. At number 8 from 1978, Love Beach. Now this is often considered ELP's commercial sellout album, with a more polished, radio-friendly sound. It's not nearly as ambitious as their early works, but it does have a certain charm, and it is worth a listen for those curious about the band's shift in style and their hairy chests from the album cover. The title track, Love Beach, it's a light pop rock number that shows a different side to the band. It's really okay, it's catchy, smooth, and easy to listen to. However, the song The Closer I Get is really an overly sentimental ballad, and it feels disconnected from the band's earlier, more adventurous work, and it was a sign that perhaps ELP was struggling to stay relevant in that changing music landscape of the time. At number 7, Works Volume 2 from 1977. Now, whilst Volume 2 doesn't have that same epic scope as its predecessor, it featured several standout tracks and provided perhaps a more accessible introduction to the band's late 70s works. The album is a compilation of live and studio tracks and offered a different perspective to their usual sound. I believe in Father Christmas, this was the standout track from the album. It's become such a well-loved classic, featuring a beautiful melody and emotional depth that stands out from the usual fare. On the other hand, Tiger in the Spotlight, however, felt more like a pop experiment rather than the progressive rock that ELP were known for. It's quite catchy, but it lacks any real depth and complexity. Number 6, from 1977, it's Works Volume 1, and this was a double album with each member contributing a side. It's quite a mixed bag, offering both hits and misses, but it's also a fascinating look at ELP's individual talents and styles. It performed nowhere near as commercially as some of their other albums, but it still contained some gems. Most notable, Fanfare for the Common Man. This was a powerful orchestral piece that became one of ELP's signature tracks. It's uplifting, dramatic, and remains one of their most recognised works to date. The Gambler, though, was a country-inspired song that feels so out of place on this album. It mixed symphonic rock with experimental sounds. It was certainly a very odd choice for it. The debut album at number 5 from 1970, whilst might not have had the same commercial success as later releases, but it did lay the foundation for their quite unique sound. The album featured their classical and jazz influences and mixed in with a harder rock edge to it. Whilst it's raw, it's also a vital piece of their discography. Brilliant song on this one was Lucky Man, the haunting acoustic ballad that became a hit and was one of ELP's most enduring songs, with a memorable guitar riff and Greg Lake's soulful vocals. The Barbarian, on the other hand, was a track that was way too heavy on over-the-top instrumental skills and really became a bit too abrasive for listeners who were new to the genre. In 1971, Pictures at an Exhibition comes in at number 4. As I say, whilst it's technically a live album, Pictures was based on a live performance of Modest Mussorgsky's classical piece. It's exciting, it's electrified interpretation of the original with Emerson's organ playing and the band's improvisational energy taking center stage and working overtime. This album is an absolute must-hear for fans of classical rock fusion and ELP's live performances. Great Gates of Kiev was a stunning performance of Mussorgsky's classical piece, and it brought to life with ELP's trademark musical stills. It was thrilling and captured the band's power and precision. However, the Hut of the Baba Yaga, whilst impressive in its technicality, it did feel quite a lot too bombastic and chaotic for casual listeners who may have preferred the more smoother elements of the ELP catalogue. At 3, Trilogy from 1972, this one's the perfect balance between accessibility and complexity. Now, while it's still ambitious, it's more melodic and approachable than perhaps some of the others, making it a great entry point for casual listeners. The album was also commercially successful and features some of the band's best moments. I love the track on this one from the beginning. It's a beautiful acoustic-driven ballad that again shows off Greg Lake's emotive vocals and remains one of their most popular tracks. The track that gave me some cause for concern was the Endless Enigma Part 1. Now, whilst it's interesting, it is a bit overly complicated and might lose some listeners due to its shifting tempos and complexity. Tarkus from 1971, this was the second ELP album, and it's a masterpiece of progressive rock, with the title track a 20-minute epic across one side, combining rock, classical and jazz elements in such a thrilling way. It's a defining album in the prog genre, though it didn't quite reach the commercial heights of perhaps some of the other ones. It's still beloved by fans for its daring concept and intense musicianship. Notable song here is an easy one. It is the title track, this 20-minute journey that explores ELP's complex fusion of rock and classical influences. It's a must-listen, really, for any prog rock fan. What he didn't do so well was Are You Ready, Eddie, in this jazz-infused track that feels a bit out of place. It was one of those fun tracks that they did, but it's not as memorable as the rest of the album, leaving us at number 1 with Brain Salad Surgery from 1973. We're left with Brain Salad Surgery from 1973 at number 1. Now, this album is the peak of ELP's creative and commercial success. It is known for its grandiose arrangements and complex compositions, but this album is really an essential for any prog rock fan, not just fans of the band. It was bold, ambitious, and featured the band at their most experimental. The album was a massive success, both critically and commercially, and the track Carnival 9 First Impression Part 2, this became a prog rock anthem with its iconic Welcome Back My Friends intro, and this represents ELP at their finest. There's another fun, light-hearted song on this one as well, Benny the Bouncer, and although a bluesy track, it feels quite an odd detour in an otherwise powerful album. While it's fun, for me, it doesn't quite fit with the grandeur of the rest of the record. So from their prog rock masterpieces to their commercial missteps, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's catalogue really has a little something for everyone. But which album is your favourite? Do you agree with my rankings, or do you think another album deserves that top spot? Let me know. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which ELP album holds most meaning for you. And in the next video, I'll be looking at the first of my viewers' 5-minute album selections. Keep an eye out for that, if you will. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.